And welcome back to Top Story. We are just getting some information in. We had somebody email some pictures into us about an accident that occurred at the corner of Second Line and Gooley. And at this point, it seems like somebody has been injured. Of course, it happened 20 minutes ago, so we don't really know to what extent. We have seen some people being taken by ambulance. As you can see there, somebody is definitely down. It's again at the corner of Second Line and Gooley. And police, of course, and other officials are there, and we have no further information. But of course, here at On TV, we're going to work on that for you throughout the day and let you know exactly what happened. It seems like it was severe enough, right? So that was at the corner of Second Line and Gooley about 20 minutes ago. Top story, something that we're all talking about, is the 1% tax increase. Is it going to be or is it not going to be? Let's talk to mayoral candidate Rory Ring, who, Rory, you said at City Council, you put out a notice to people, watch City Council, because tonight they're going to charge you a 1% tax increase.
Yeah, and it's something that we really do have to pay attention to, and some of these things obviously tend to fall a little bit under the radar. As you know, my platform, one of the main pillars of that platform is lower taxes, as well as more jobs and a quality of life that we all deserve here in Sault Ste. Marie. And the three are not mutually exclusive. So the focus here being on the tax and how we actually make tax decisions, expenditure decisions, and who really is at the center of these decisions. And my approach is that we really need to be thinking about who's impacted first, and it's actually the citizens that are impacted, and the 1% is really 1% of a levy on an annual basis. Yes, the expenditures are extended over a period of time. However, it still is paid for by the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie through
and we're actually talking
taxes.
about reserves paying for a couple of garbage trucks that are needed by the city.
Yeah, I relate to it as, let's say you're running your household and you're always recommended to have a little reserve fund for emergencies, and that can, be set for, it could be a death in the family, it could be medical emergencies. But to use it for operational activities is really something that we should give better consideration to, because those reserves have to be replenished. If you take your household reserve and you spend it on a trip to Mexico, you better put that money back in, because when you have a true emergency, you're really going to need it. So, where are we really making the critical decisions that impact our citizens? And that really is the nature of the argument. We've got 1.6 million being spent out of the waste reserves for technology that could have been secured from a private sector and operated by private sector. We have dump trucks that are being acquired out of the equipment reserve that could be used for, those monies could be used for other things like transit. We have a challenge with our employers getting employees to work and our employees getting to work. So, we need to be, I think, a little more creative in terms of those solutions. So, you add up all those things, and yes, you can say it comes from reserve, but at the end of the day, there's one real source of revenue for the city, and that's the taxpayers. So I think if we have a more conscious decision-making process that really understands the impact, not just in the long term, but also in the short term, I think we can get some better decisioning on these type of matters.
Now, in the open letter, you invited the community to watch City Council this past Monday night to watch for that 1% tax increase. It didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It was delayed. It was pulled off. We don't know the rationale behind that. Was that because they wanted to go back and have a second look? Because, really what I was implying was that we were not comparing apples to apples. And we need to do that. And we need to compare apples to apples. So, we think about what those trade-offs are, spending $55,000, saving $55,000, and where do we spend that to the best investment for our citizens? Just 2-3 days ago, there's an article in the paper saying that they can't afford to do snow removal for our seniors. And these are people who've been paying taxes, all their life. My platform is trying to lower taxes so that they can stay in their own homes. And these are challenges. These are decisions that we really think as a council and as leadership of the city really have to think about ultimately where those impacts are and how do we best serve our citizens in that respect.
So it's over the long term, you mentioned, over an 8-year period, is it? So there's definitely over an 8-year period where residents can pretty much be guaranteed there will be a tax increase.
Well, I mean, obviously, taxes have increased 11% in the last 4 years. My platform is going to be working very hard with council to ensure that we freeze taxes for 4 years and really get the house in order to make sure that we're spending efficiently. We're looking at really cost-effective measures of how we deliver services. We're benchmarking the city best in class, and not just against other northern communities, but on a global basis. Who is doing what the best possible way to yield the highest value for its citizen? And I call it that return on tax dollar. We really need to start to focus on understanding when we make an investment, what yield is that to the taxpayer? What economic engine is created if we spend a little bit of money here or a little bit of money there? And how do we prioritize infrastructure investment to generate economic prosperity for the greatest number, and if not all, Saultites?
So the city needs a couple of garbage trucks. How would you have gone about it?
Well, I think you had a tendering process that had happened, and it just, wasn't one or two. There was a multiple number of companies that participated in that RFP process, and I think you have to take a look. What is the cost of delivering through the private sector? What is the cost of delivering through the public sector? What is the risk associated with private or public? And they did look at the mix, but at the end of the day, the best bang for the buck was if they were to privatize the garbage collection and the leaf and biomaterial. So in my mind, that's a great instance that demonstrates that it's able to do. Now, you have to be very, very careful in terms of how you write the contractual agreement to ensure that we're not getting any escalations in cost, and at the end of that 8 to 10 year period, that again, when you open it up, companies have adopted the latest and invested in the technologies to be more efficient and to process more efficiently. And that's their investment, not the city's investment. We need to reserve, I think, the city's money for the best applications in making life better for our citizens. And that's the economy, that's a quality of life, that's dealing with socioeconomic challenges that we may have, housing needs, a hub trail, the McMeekin. So there's a large list, and where are the priorities of that investment to give the best bang for the buck?
Do you think garbage disposal should be privatized in the Soo?
There's been a number of studies done. The CD Howe Institute has demonstrated that more municipalities are moving to the privatization of waste and biomaterial disposal. It actually demonstrates, too, that the type of waste curb removal is expanding into other products, not just number 2 and number 5 plastics, but all plastics, as well as, again, biodegradable materials that include food waste. So, from that perspective, the private sector is used to being innovative, to driving out the envelope, meeting market demand, right? So if your community is demanding food waste recycling, or bio waste recycling, then, the private sector looks to see how they can provide that value, because obviously the private sector is being driven to give more for less. And I think we need to start to think as a city on how we deliver more for less.
Now, if it does go to privatization, there's a cost involved with moving it to that, no?
Yes. So there'll be, obviously, like anything, there's a cost associated with it. However, we are in a circumstance where that cost is really mitigated because we've already entered into a relationship with GFL to do some of the waste removal services. So that cost, in my mind, would almost be negligible.
Do you have a number?
I do not. No. I mean, obviously, I'm not. I don't have purview into the
right.
the inner circle of the finances of the city. Obviously, we've participated in the finance committee, but that has been more from a strategic direction. And, however, these are things that, council needs to be fully cognizant of. What are the details within the scope of measuring the benefit versus the cost, again, associated to the risk to give value.
So in your mind, if we went to privatization, there would be absolutely guaranteed no tax increase?
I think if you move to privatization within the waste disposal area, and again, that's where we are looking at only one
Yes.
area, and that's not to say privatization of everything is the
No,
way to go.
we're just talking
But
about
just
disposal.
in waste disposal, I think you see it demonstrated. North Bay is 100%. Toronto was moving closer to 100%. Windsor is moving to a mixed model. Windsor has held their tax for 8 years. Winnipeg hasn't had a tax increase in 18 years. Why are we not asking them how that's done? And is waste disposal part of that? So I think when you start to look at how we drive budget, we need to make sure, again, that we're investing in areas that will help us lower the taxes, like expanding the economic base of Sault Ste. Marie, like expanding the number of citizens that are participating in our economy, like expanding the value of all our assets, whether it be commercial, industrial, or residential. So it's all part, and it does not stand alone.
Okay, thank you so much for that information. Certainly hope that we helped you to understand the situation a little bit more. Mayoral candidate for the upcoming municipal election is coming up. Is it going quick for you?
Fast and furious, and obviously all my lines are open to any of the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie that wish to discuss this issue. ringformayor@gmail.com, www.ringformayor.ca, and my phone number 989-4804.
We'll be watching very closely, Rory. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Appreciate
Always
it.
good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
We'll be back with more news on Top Story right after this.